before we get to a really wacky hand, honestly,
yeah.
we want to tell you about Nitrogen Sports Poker Room, where we're hosting a free roll every Sunday. You have to use the link in the description to sign up for access to those free rolls.
You can also click up here if you are, that type of a person.
A person who likes to click on stuff?
I mean, that's fine, I guess.
It's not for everybody, but if that's you, that's good.
Nitrogen Sports is Bitcoin only, which is awesome because it means you get super fast payouts. Check it out.
Imagine, if you will, a time when Mike the Mouth Matisow played the highest stakes in the world.
It's impossible
That's
to think
a thing
of.
that was really happening. It was happening in London about 10 years ago on the Full Tilt $1 Million Cash game. He's going to play this hand against Phil Ivey. That guy's pretty good. Phil Ivey, that guy's got some moves, and you're going to see some today.
This hand was suggested to us on Twitter by Steve. Steve. If you have a suggestion for the breakdown, tweet it at us and include a YouTube link.
We're going to break this hand down as we go, so as always, get ready for some analysis.
No, exactly. He's definitely playing a very cautious game right now. 8-handed, first to act. He knows he's going to have to put in at least 1,200. He's going to be pretty pleased he did pass. There's Matisow with pocket kings. With a 4,700 bet.
Well, he's got the Cowboys.
And pocket threes for David Benjamin. He's going to call, trying to spike a 3.
Well, it's kind of the hand that can break Matisow, isn't it?
It certainly is.
How much?
4,100 more. Some guys get $1 million contracts. I get 20,000.
And Helmuth thinking about his play here. Is he thinking about re-raising?
I don't know whether he's just doing a bit of kind of one-upmanship for Mike Matisow.
Seems like I should be getting paid the same as everyone.
You really want to get paid the same as everybody, though.
These two have been going at each other verbally.
Is it really, Phil?
Is it really? Yeah, it is.
For most of the day. Now he decides to lay it down.
Pretty sure that Ivey will call this. And we'll say this three-handed. Patrick Antonius has gotten up, taken a break.
You don't have it. Cool.
He'll rejoin us shortly.
Doesn't want to see an ace, Mike. What he doesn't realise is he doesn't want to see a 3 either. Well, there's a 4 there for Phil Ivey.
I was going to say the ace, actually, he won't lose any money with the ace. The 3
Exactly.
would cost him his whole stack.
11,000.
Exactly.
Fold.
So Phil Ivey in the foreground right, and Mike Matisow, the 2 players left.
Now Ivey is out of position. He's got bottom pair with top kicker. He's a 4-to-1 dog here. Tough spot to be in.
He does. He probably thinks that if he catches a 4, he's going to get the lot off Mike.
Cool.
He's called. Trying to play catch up.
Second card, jack.
Now that's a very, very dangerous card here. Not only is it the 3rd club, but it's a top pair. Can Ivey represent that?
Well, it's gone check, check.
All right, so that is a good-bad turn card for Mike Matisow, I guess, but mostly bad. I'm going to say mostly bad. The good part, of course, is that he picks up the second nut flush draw. That's nice.
Sure.
That's pretty great. He has outs against most hands. That's cool. However, it completes a lot of Ivey's hands. Ivey has a lot of jacks, and he has a lot of flush draws, and those all just got there. So going check, check here makes sense. We also expect Ivey to check those hands, by the way.
Yeah, this is a totally standard looking turn, but something happens from this standard play, which is it's really hard now for Mike Matisow to have a full house.
Right, this is important. Yes, everything that's happened so far has been standard, but it informs a lot about Mike's range here. Because if Mike had a full house, we don't expect it to be Jack 6 or Jack 4.
No.
He raised pre-flop. That's not usually Mike right there. He has 4s full or 6s full. And you would really think he was going to bet a hand like that because, like I said, this card hits Ivey a lot of the time. Wouldn't Mike want value from a jack? Wouldn't he want value from a flush? I think it's a clear bet with a full house.
Right, and we could really believe that we could get 2 more streets of value if Ivey has these strong hands in his range here, right? Especially a flush, by the way. Where we can bet the turn and get a nice big bet out on the river, and Ivey might just feel forced to call.
Right. As we know, Ivey would be folding to a bet here.
Yeah.
But we would have to try at least if we were Mike to get some value here. So that's important because it caps Mike's range. It means he doesn't have any of those full houses, and that's going to be really important later in the hand.
And maybe we should say he almost never has.
Right.
Like maybe once in a blue moon he'll actually check a full house here, or quad jacks. But we think even quad jacks, he's probably usually betting to build that pot.
Quad jack's more likely than a full house here to check back, though,
Yeah.
of course. Also, Mike does check pretty fast. I'm not sure if that really means anything, but you would think if you were going to slow play a full house, usually it'll take a little bit more time.
You might want to think about
Right.
it.
Actually,
Like,
probably want to think about it more no matter what. You don't want to be exploitable with your check speed.
7.
Well, he's got the king of clubs, Mike.
Check.
Check from Phil. Now, can Mike remember if he's got a club or not? I think he does.
And you imagine a value bid will come in here. I can't see Ivey calling, can you?
Forgot what I have.
He's just going to have a look back. I was right. He couldn't remember whether he had a club or not.
Pot is $37,800.
15. 15,000.
Get a $15,000 bet from Mattisau. Action back to Ivey.
The bet laying Phil 3-1 to call this bet. It's for it to be a profitable call. Well, he's decided
52,000 total.
He's decided to re-raise it. Now, how much does Mike like his bet?
Well, obviously, Mattisau cannot beat the ace of clubs. He also cannot beat a full house. There's a paired board out there. And that's certainly what Ivey is representing.
I got a feeling Mike's probably going to make this call.
Can't believe I'm thinking of folding this hand. I mean, none of these guys would have beat the pot and they would have laughed in my face. Oh, my.
And of course, Mike Mattisau started this hand with just under $100,000.
Philly. Why do you do this to me, Philly?
The pot is nearly $105,000.
How?
$37,000 to call.
Check. Pocket sevens.
$104,000 in this pot. You could buy a brand new Mercedes S-Class with that.
The interesting thing is that Ivey had given up on the pot. He's ready to check and just give it up. But Mattisau's bet, he's reopened the betting.
Not really.
Oh, wow. And he
And he's
throws
laid
it
it
away.
down.
Oh, my. He's going to be sick. And is Ivey going to show this?
I had the ace.
We think it's pretty funny that Phil just said, I had the ace after Mike shows the king of clubs for a couple reasons. First of all, it's a lie, and lies are funny when they're told to Mike Mattisau sometimes. Another reason is that we actually don't think Ivey would play the nut flush like this.
We have to believe that almost always, if Phil makes the nut flush on the river, he's just going to bet it out. Because remember we said on the turn, we don't think Mike really ever has any full houses.
Right.
I guess he could have pocket sevens and made sevens full on the river. That's very
just
unlikely.
unlucky, you know?
Yeah. But besides that, it's just so hard to get any value. If we check a hand as good as the nut flush here, Mike is going to be checking back so many hands so much that, now the king of clubs he can bet, sure.
Yeah.
But almost everything else he can't. And by the way, the king of clubs folded to a check raise anyway.
Right, so by check raising the nut flush, we're not really getting value from any worse hands. And also, we don't expect Mike to have any better hands, so why don't we just bet for value on the river? So we don't really think Ivey ever has the nut flush, which means that his value is all the full houses, and that's it.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
a problem if you're sitting in Phil Ivey's shoes and Mike is tanking this long, right? Because it's like, I don't have a huge amount of value here, really.
Yeah.
I have Jack 7. Phil can have that. He was
Yeah.
a straddler. I'm sure he defends his straddle, very intensely.
Yes, we've seen
most
it.
of the time.
We've seen it before.
He can certainly have pocket sixes and pocket fours. He might even have hands like Jack 6 and Jack 4 suited. That
He
makes
really might.
sense. I believe that.
He really might.
So he has all the full houses.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's big. The only thing he doesn't have is quads, really, usually. I mean, it's hard for him to have quads because he didn't 3-bet pre-flop.
It's unlikely. It's possible, but it's less likely for sure.
That doesn't matter. That's one combo. There are, in fact, quite a few full houses that Ivey can have.
Yeah.
And we don't think Mike can have any. So this is a cool range-based play where Mike is capped and Ivey is not. And Ivey's saying, okay, buddy, are you going to call me with your nut flush? Even if Mike has a nut flush, what's Ivey doing this with? Not
Right.
the second nut flush.
Right. Like, if Ivey's never going to make this play with the king of clubs for value, it's the same problem that Mike has right now with the king of clubs himself. He can add in the ace of clubs if he wants to Ivey's value range. We don't think it's going to be there.
We don't think it will.
But even if you add it in or not, it's still the same problem. And the other big thing to think about is how often truly is even a player as high level as Phil Ivey check raising the river as a bluff in this spot?
Right.
Just probably not very often.
Probably not. And something that might have led him to do this was Mike's sizing.
Yeah.
Mike sized really small on the river for a cash game, 15K into 37K. That's tiny.
Yeah.
That's really small. So maybe Phil thinks that shows weakness. Maybe Mike's being exploitable here. And as it turns out, he is.
It's possible that's what it is. It's possible that Mike's check on the turn was just enough for Ivey to know that since Mike is capped, he can take advantage of it. Probably Ivey put both pieces of information together and knows he can just take Mike to Value Town. Or not really Value Town, I guess, to Bluff Town.
To Bluff Town.
To school.
He's far away from Value Town. He's got ace 4 of spades.
Mike is very close to Value Town. He
is.
just doesn't know it.
He doesn't know how close to Value Town he is.
Yes.
So close. It would be interesting to know if Ivey would make this play if Mattisau bet 30K.
Yes.
The range capping is still the same. It still looks like Mike doesn't have full houses very often, but it's a lot harder to pull the trigger. Even if you're the venerable Phil Ivey, it's still a lot harder to pull the trigger. I'd be curious to know. We never will. This happened like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this is a really well pulled off bluff. It's really cool.
It's not necessarily that it's a bad fold by Mike by any means.
No.
It's just a great play by Phil.
Yep.
So what do you think, people? Was that just a great play by Phil, or should Mike be calling there? Let us know in the comments, and we're going to respond to our favorite comments from you about this video right up here.
That would be cool to check that out. But you know what else you should check out?
What?
Phil Ivey hands. I mean, that was awesome, right? That was a cool play by Phil.
Oh, yeah.
He makes cool plays all the time. We've done a bunch of Phil Ivey hands. Click right up there to see him.
While you're busy checking out stuff that the poker guys are doing, also check out our podcast, The Breakdown, presented by the Poker Guys, where we talked for 39 minutes about this hand and all the decisions to go just in this hand. That's what we do on this show. We break down one hand each time. And make sure, if you like this video, you subscribe to our YouTube channel.